right? Because the only reason I could permit you being here and not seeing your face, and I'm going to keep it vague right now because the audience, as of now, does not know who our secret guest is. But if you come in with a face tattoo the next time you're on, it's going to be
I hope
pretty
that's
impactful.
the case.
It's going to be pretty impactful. So Blake, I'll let you take it from here.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's Totally Biased Music, and guess the fuck what? I'm not even saying it's your hosts, Blake and Anthony, because we have a very monumental guest, very monumental return. Christian is back.
We back, baby.
So far back, it might have broken Blake's computer. Hold on.
He just dropped off completely.
Blake got so excited to announce Christian is back. He literally glitched out. He's out of the studio.
Oh, he's out. He's out
of
the studio
completely. So Christian, welcome back, dude. Blake will join us shortly.
I don't know what the fuck just happened. The excitement overwhelmed the computer. We're back. We're gonna do an amazing album this week. Get into it with the boys. Cannot wait.
This happened to me last week too. I don't know what the fuck is going on with my shitty ass mic, man.
You gotta simmer down.
Yeah, Christian is back, and it's good because, you know, Anthony texted me when he decided to pick up the slack from my co-host leaving me, but he told me, he said, listen, I'll join, but the gay jokes and the dick jokes have to go down to a minimum. So it's good to have Christian back, because if Anthony leaves, then, you know, I got a backup, and we're back at it, you know? So Christian, how does it feel to be back, man? We missed you so much.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about this studio that just, you know, hopping into it's like getting into a warm hot tub when it's snowing outside. You know, we're cracking one open virtually. It just feels good to be back with the gang. We got a ripper of a fucking album to talk about, an insanely influential one for me. So I'm fucking stoked, boys.
Hell yeah, it's good to have you back, man. I know that we missed you, and I know that the audience missed you. So, well, you picked The Fat of the Land by the Prodigy. So tell us why this album.
So this was a really pivotal album for me growing up in kind of broadening what I'd heard. I think this album came out in 1997, and you know, I've given my dad a fair amount of props on this podcast, but that motherfucker has a just absolutely insane taste in music. And up until probably 1997, it consisted of, you know, the classics. You got your Pearl Jams, your Soundgardens, your Nirvanas. He was a big, you know, Chili Peppers guy. We big on Tool, but this was just something else. And the fact that my dad listened to this album and showed it to me, first off, just blew me away. And second, blew me away because I'd never heard anything like this. This fucking breakbeat, fucking punk, fucking UK electronic, just out of left field wild shit. Frontman Keith Flint, madman. And my dad used to pull up videos for me and my brother of them performing live. And Keith Flint would wear his hair gelled into devil horns. And so my dad would get hair gel, and he would gel mine and my brother's hair into devil horns, and we would fucking run around the living room screaming the lyrics to smack my bitch up. My mom wasn't home. Sorry, Mom. So this album has like a really special place in my heart, and then it just kind of started to trickle through. It's always been consistent. And then, you know, one track on it, Minefields, it's a pivotal scene for me in The Matrix, which is a just insane movie. So there's a lot to go into for this one. So yeah.
Very fair. Yeah. I have to say, I didn't know what I was getting into. Like, I didn't know. So you had sent like ages ago, Diesel Power. Yeah. So, and that's the only song I had heard. So I was like, you know what? Like, I was expecting an old school hip hop album, which is not what this is.
It is not.
So it's like, as it slowly progressed, I was like, okay, I realize now what I'm listening to. But it caught me off guard. And like you said, like, I don't think I've ever listened to any album that's like this, like breakbeat, weirdo like 90s electronic music has like a very distinct sound to it, right? Like it hasn't been fleshed out and refined yet. It's like it's like grungy electronic music almost. That's like the best way I can describe it. So it was a trip for me, man. This album was a trip, and it was kind of taking me all over the place at times, you know, like ups, downs. I was kind of confused at some points. I was hype at other points. So I'm excited to talk about it. I'm glad you brought it. It's nice to broaden our horizons. And as Anthony has said multiple times, the whole point of the podcast is to broaden my horizons specifically because Anthony doesn't think I'm cultured enough.
Exactly.
So,
we can go ahead and check that box 5 minutes in, right?
Yeah, exactly. Anthony, what do you think?
So I have heard of the Prodigy a lot. I've not listened to a lot of the Prodigy music, or at least not knowingly. You know, you can dig back, and it's going to be cool to talk about, you know, the different films that feature music from this album specifically. But I had also heard a lot of remixes of the Prodigy through different producers and live shows, and I think it just speaks so much, kind of like how we've talked about in the past, you know, how people like Andy Wood and Kid Cudi and these guys who have influenced other musicians within the genre. And I think the Prodigy really reach further out than any specific genre, because you have film buffs that love this music. You have future musicians that would sample the Prodigy in their sets. You have bands that cover the Prodigy, you know, in a live music format. So it's really interesting to see their outreach too. And to go back to 97, dude, I had never listened to this album before, but I'm glad to now add it to the list of things that we've listened to, and then we get to talk about. So excited for this one.
Very cool. Well, Christian, fucking lead us off. What do you got for top tracks, my friend?
Listen, man, this, because of where it sits in my heart, I have just about I'll talk through some of my favorites. The only song that, and I don't mean to jump us right into bottom, but the one that I have on my bottom is Fuel My Fire. We can get to that. Everything else to me is in the top. That there's just, as far as the influence in their music, it is just that fucking grunge. It's just the attitude with it. Like, you feel the attitude. You see Keith Flint, you see them perform on stage, the energy they bring. Like that 1990s UK fucking rave culture that was grunge. Like, it was almost based off of pop punk culture, that like rave culture. I feel like came straight from that. The attitude was the same. So these songs just carry so much energy. I mean, I think I got to start with it from the top, like Smack My Bitch Up, because not only the song itself was just it's the first that I heard of the Prodigy, but it was one of the first music videos that I'd ever seen from from that POV type perspective. And it might've been one of the first ones that was ever really done that way. I think that's something that they kind of like broke into the scene with doing. The Smack My Bitch Up video is like him getting up, and it's this POV of him like going through his whole day and getting fucked up and all this different stuff. And it's just this crazy kind of erratic point of view. So I think that one just sticks in my head the most. My favorite as of probably recent is Diesel Power, because it just has that fucking energy about it. Winston Pack Rewind, Diesel Power. He just fucking goes in. I blast it in the gym all the time. Then you got Breathe, Firestarter, Classics, and then Minefields, because it's just like, it's in that Matrix, the first Matrix club scene. And it just, that's when I think it's Trinity is telling Neo, you know, I know what you've been looking for because I was looking for it too. And this Minefields track is playing in the background. And you're like, what the fuck? So yeah, those are just like up in my top, but I don't really have anything in the bottom. Oh yeah, here's that video.
Yeah, this video is insane. I was about to look it up too, so I'm super glad you pulled it up, Blake, because yeah, he is getting fucked up. I mean, yeah,
apparently the video was banned from MTV.
Yeah.
Apparently the video was banned from MTV. So I just had to pull that up and show a brief clip of it so people knew what we were talking about.
Yeah, this is it's a wild track, no doubt. And now to picture young Christian and Karsten like just raging, you know, with their hair spiked up, like that's a sick ass memory. So what an awesome intro into the album.
100%. Anthony, what about you?
So similar tracks. I got a couple, or at least definitely have one. The number one track I have off the album is Minefields. It is
Mm.
such like, for this being my first listen all the way through, definitely has its moments. And I think Smack My Bitch Up, it creates a vibe, and that's what I had thought it was going to stick to, this kind of, raw UK kind of fast paced vibe. But Minefields did a 180 for me. It was it had like Eastern influence in it, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, this is such a left turn from where I thought this album was going to stay, and that really stuck with me. The second track, now I'm going to try to pronounce this. Christian, you might want to help me, but I have Nada Yan, maybe
Yeah,
Nada
yeah, that
Yan.
one's
It's
up there
really
on mine.
chanty.
It is very chanty. It's a gorgeous track.
Yeah. So those two back to back really fucking set a really nice mood for me. And I think Nadian is a long ass track too. It might be like 9 minutes or something.
Yeah,
But
905.
yeah, but
905,
that
yeah.
one I really enjoyed it. It was one of the more arc like narrative like tracks of the album, so that really stuck with me. And then number 3, I have Breathe. Breathe in itself is, I can see how innovative they are with this music, because I mean, back then, I mean, I'm not a savant in 90s electronic music, but there wasn't a lot of stuff out there like this that people were putting out albums with. I think there's a lot of like video games that would use maybe excerpts from this type of music, or shorter tracks within the context of a game or a soundtrack of a movie.
Yeah.
But Breathe is really, I think, impactful, and it's another song that I've heard a remix of, and the artist, I think it's number NIN6 remix of Breathe, is a fucking epic remix of that track. And to see the original, and then to see the potential of it, and then see where it ultimately ends up in sets and all, it's a fucking powerful song. So that's
It's
gonna
one of
wrap
those
up.
songs that like it creates that visceral response where you're almost paying attention to your breathing, where it's like doom, doom, doom. Like you're almost like gasping with the beat, like in and out. It's one of those that like creates a cool visceral response.
And it's instructive. It's kind of like guided. It's a guided. I don't want to say meditation, because it is a whole different thing.
Angsty.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's like, breathe with me, and then you can't like not start to go in that tempo, right? But that's why I love the remix of the track, because it breaks it down in such a different manner that I'm like, God damn, this song right now is pretty
Fuck
special.
yeah, I'm gonna have to check out that remix.
Oh, dude, yeah. You probably heard it before. I mean, Bass Hunter would play it in his sets, but that's
Oh,
what
yeah,
exposed
yeah.
me to it. And to hear, like I said, to hear the evolution of that track, it's fucking powerful.
Nice. So top for me, I'm with Christian. Smack My Bitch Up. Perfect intro track, and like, what a title, man. Smack My Bitch Up.
They changed it. They changed it recently, unfortunately, because
What?
people like complained to such an extent that they changed the lyrics to "change my pitch up."
Shut
Really?
the fuck up. Did they actually?
When?
Yeah, I swear.
Like, is that a 2020 politically correct?
Within the last couple of years, I think.
Oh my god, dude.
Wow.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm
Yeah.
calling it "Smack My Bitch Up" because that's
Right.
the name of the fucking track.
Yeah.
But it is like a good intro, because like there's not a ton of lyrical content in here, and it's not like the whole album doesn't really have a ton of lyrical content to it, right? It's more
Yeah.
about the instrumentation and the electronics, and I kind of, like I said, like that's not what I expected going into it. So like it started off, and like a minute into it, I'm like, all right, man, when's this guy gonna start rapping? Like, what the fuck is going on, dude? Like 3 minutes into it, I was like, word, guess he's not doing that. So
Nope.
that kind of set the tone for the album for me, which I liked.
Yeah.
Number 2 for me, obviously, Diesel Power. So it's the only song I had heard before. It's the only really like hip hop like song that I have, or that's on the album. I do love like the womps throughout it, and Diesel Power. Anthony, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I've heard Diesel Power in a Bass Nectar set at some point, and I could be wrong in that, but that's what I thought that he had sampled before.
Well, Smack My Bitch Up. So it has a sample from Do It Like This is sampled from Smack My Bitch Up. It's just a very short like this. vocal
Oh
sample, right?
yeah.
Which is crazy because back when I was younger, I remember watching Scary Movie 2. Scary Movie 2 features Smack My Bitch Up in the movie. And
Nice.
I just remember geeking out because I recognized that sample. It's during the there's like a kung fu-esque Kill Bill like scene in Scary Movie 2, and it features Smack My Bitch Up.
Nice. Hell yeah. And I just love like I love this beat. Like it fucking rides. It's such a head
Right.
bobber. Great song. So I love Diesel Power. And then Minefields for me was the other
Hell yeah.
kind of the only one that was like even to me really resembled another type of hip hop song. Like again, that lyrical content is very minimal on Minefields as it is throughout the whole album, but it kind of had that same feel and sound as Diesel Power did for me. And so those were kind of my tops. But like I said, man, this album took me all over the place, dude. I feel like if I listen to it again now, my opinions might change because now I know more of like what I'm getting into. But upon like the first full listen to the album, that's kind of what stood out for me. So
I think it's an absolute mind fuck too that like as that scene is playing out, Minefields is playing, where she's literally walking through these minefields of him trying to be like, I know what you're going through. You're searching for the Matrix, and the song called Minefields, like you're walking through all these like is playing.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is for fucking mindfuck.
Mindfuck,
Right?
yeah. Mindfuck
it's like-
in the minefield, man.
Right. Well, and like it makes you think too. What came first, the track and then the idea to create that scene based around that track, right, or vice versa? Because I imagine probably a soundtrack or a track itself like Minefields you can conjure up a scene just from listening to it. Then you throw it in the Matrix world and it's even cooler.
Exactly.
All right, Christian, you kind of spoiled it for us, but let's go into bottom. I guess you only got one, right?
Yeah, it's just Fuel My Fire. It just really bums me out. I think it's a really weak way to close out the album. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't really hit for me on it. It almost feels like they were like, we don't know how to close this out, and they just kind of tossed that on there. And it doesn't like culminate the album in the way that I wanted to. You kind of, like what Anthony was saying, through the first few tracks, like you just have this kind of heavy arc where they're like, okay, here's how we're setting the tone for this. And then they drop it into a very different, like slower, more ethereal type feel with Minefields and what was it again? Narayan, however you pronounce it. We're going to fucking make it up.
Something.
Narayan! Narayan all over your face. And then it's just like, I think it has this opportunity for the art to either build back up or kind of continue in that direction. And it builds back up, and then Fuel My Fire is just like a wet fart.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It's just there. And it's just such a bummer because of what everything else was. So that's my only bottom track.
Yeah.
Anthony?
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I have Fuel My Fire on there as one of my bottom threes. It just seems like it's kind of thrown at the end, when in reality, like Climatize, I really like how that closes out. But whatever, to each their own. 97, who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that was like a more the video from Smack My Bitch Up was more self-reflective than we know. But I have on my bottom three, I have Serial Thriller. I think just the vocals in that, it just kind of takes me out of the track. And that happens often with me, and I can usually isolate it, but it's too much. I think it's too repetitive for me in that song. Same with Firestarter. I like how Firestarter starts, but I can only listen to him say that so many times before it's just kind of like,
that's one of those for me that if it didn't have like such a nostalgia like vibe,
right,
for me and my brother just running around like, wow, the Firestarter. Like if it didn't have that for me, like it's a song I can't really listen to now.
That was such a good fucking reenaction.
Dude, that's real. He lived it. Christian,
I lived it, bro. Yeah.
Literally. And now, a good thing you didn't turn out as pyro or have any major trauma with fire, because, you could easily draw a straight line with the track and lighten some shit up.
Christian was in his driveway, just like pouring gas out on the driveway and lighting it on fire and just watching it burn, just staring at it.
Carson's like, fuel my fire. And your dad's like, diesel power, more.
Diesel power.
Oh, God. Oh, shit. All right, Blake, what do you got?
Okay, so I had, for the first one, I also had Serial Thriller. I don't know, man. Like, what's going on here? Like, what is
Yeah.
like? What are these emo vibes? I'm getting like emo vibes from this. Like, and it's like, it was jarring, dude. It was such a derailing like vibe change to the album. Like, with everything that was coming before it, and like, I don't know, man. It's the vocals for me. Like Anthony said, like the vocals just took me out of it, and it's not what I expected. But like I said, that's kind of how the whole album was for me. But yeah, not my thing. And then Fuel My Fire. So this, and Anthony will love this reference. This is like a song that should be in a Safdie Brothers movie. Like there's there's no like coherent direction to it. It's anxiety inducing. It's fucking chaotic. It's like what like the Safdie brothers would use. Like if things weren't anxiety inducing enough, they would put Fuel My Fire over it just to add to like the distortion of like what the fuck is going on here. So so it's kind of like an anxious wet fart is really, as Christian would say. It's just like that. And then my last one. Sorry, what were you saying, Christian?
It's just so bad. Every time we bring it up, it just makes me angry. And it just, I think that if the placement were different, it wouldn't make me so angry. If it was fucking thrown in the middle somewhere, it wouldn't make me so mad. But the fact that that's how they're like, all right, that's it. See you next time. You're like, go fuck yourself.
So okay, my last track, and I have to share my screen for this. My last track was Funky Shit, okay, and I have to explain my reasoning behind this. So
yeah,
what tab am I on? Is this going to share my audio? I need to share my audio. So I don't know if you guys have ever played this game. It's called Geometry Wars 2, okay, and there was a game mode on it called Pacifism. And the music they played, which I'm about to play in a second, reminds me of Funky Shit. I literally wrote, sounds like a Geometry Wars song, okay? So listen to the music they played during
this shit rides. This rides.
So it sounded to me like all I could think about was Geo Wars. And I used to play this game religiously with like John Kennedy and I like used to just sit around and get high and play Geometry Wars. And so when I fucking like heard this song, it's just instantly where it teleported me to. And so it just like felt out of place in the album to me. Like it just felt like a video game song, felt like an old school, like 8-bit video game song to me. And I don't know. That was my main takeaway. And it wasn't even that I disliked it. It's like, that's all I could associate it with. And so that's all I thought about the entire time. So that
sounds very like Limp Bizkit's kind of synthy. Like it's that kind of like synth they use on Chocolate Starfish and the hot dog flavor water.
That was like the phase at that time, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
Well, have you ever looked up those tracks from Geometry Wars? And
no, I haven't. Dude,
you might find out
there's
some legit fucking...
Who's producing these?
Well, like, here's the thing. I mean, like, like I said, the Prodigy is featured in a ton of video games, you know, from the 90s, right?
God, I hope it's fucking Derek Vincent Smith.
No, man. Well, like, I mean, but you think of...
Just to piss Trey off.
Yeah, right. Well, Trey, if you're listening, come back, and we got 2-on-2. We'll go dab for dab against Derek versus whoever. We'll go for it. But, like, as far as, like, soundtrack music goes... The Prodigy is before their time, right? I mean, because like they were putting out sounds and they were putting out rhythms and they were putting out different sequences of music that like in a whole album format, it can be super challenging, I imagine, to try to piece that together without any sort of framework or reference, you know, but it laid the stage for what's to come. You know, when you have guys like Tipper, who you listen to his stuff from the early 2000s, from the Fuel record days, and it is so like this. It's so like the Prodigy in a sense where it's breakbeat and it's glitch and it's very fast tempo and it kind of stays at that tempo. But then now 2024, when he's announcing his retirement, you listen to the track he just put out on SoundCloud and it is, ethereal. It's magical. It's fucking golden. But
Yeah.
it's an evolution of a musician. But I think it all starts somewhere, and it starts in this kind of raw Prodigy like infancy, right?
Now I
Yeah.
got to go find out who fucking produced these
Geometry.
Geometry Wars
Geo
tracks.
Wars tracks, yeah.
I'm
And while
telling
you're
you.
at it, download Geo Wars 2. It's like $3. It's the best time you'll ever waste, dude. I do want to say, talking about kind of like the Prodigy and where they started. There's an album from, or there's a review from Independent Co. And they say Firestarter's not welcome. How the Prodigy's The Fat of the Land fell out of favor. And it says raved about then, ignored now. Whatever happened to the band's incendiary 1997 album? Ed Power revisits its multiple controversies to find out. And in the first paragraph, he says the crab snapping in its claws on the cover of the Prodigy's The Fat of the Land can justifiably claim to be the most famous crustacean in pop. It also has become a slightly unfortunate metaphor for a record that raised a huge click-clacking ruckus when it first came out, but which has ultimately ended up a sideways shuffling oddity buried slightly in the sands of history. So it sounds like, obviously, I wasn't old enough to know how it was received upon its release, but it seems like it was very well received initially, but since then, as music, as you said, Anthony, as it's evolved and changed and things have come out, that it's kind of fallen by the wayside. So what do you, I don't know how to really transition, but it's like, do you guys think this stood a test of time, or do you think it deserves to be buried in 1997 and locked in a vault? I know Christian's thoughts are probably the latter.
Right.
I think it stood the test of time in a way that we like to see, not necessarily on a large scale, but I think something that we enjoy seeing is for someone to know and dive into the Prodigy is like someone knowing and diving into the Freestylers. It's kind of an ode
Right.
to looking back on how the music that you're into in one way or another has started. So I think, yes, I think it has kind of fallen by the wayside, but I think in a good way, or in a way that I like, because
Yeah.
it's one of those things that, if I hear a common like rap sample, something that is from pop or mainstream rap or pop music in general, sampled out in, producer that I love or something that even sounds similar, like a sample that sounds close, that might have been some sort of inspiration. It just doesn't have that same effect to where if I see an artist or hear an artist like sample the Freestylers or remix a Freestylers track or Prodigy, there's just something that's like a respect level that like you're paying respect to this and you've done your research to dive in on how it was before you.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Yeah, I
Anthony.
feel the same way. I mean, it's like you have to recognize the context of when this music came out. This isn't an album that is going to be like well received by everyone until the end of time, but it is an album that you can play for somebody in the future and say, look, all the music you're listening to now, it came from this kind of source right here, and listen to the differences in it. And who knows what that inspires? Like that's the beauty of music, is that you can listen to it in so many different contexts, and it can make you feel certain things, it can make you think certain things, or it can inspire you to create certain things. And that was something. I mean, I listened to this album while I was painting the other day, and that was like a really interesting experience, because the way that I do it, it's very active and movement based, right? But like, I was going to ask you guys, like, one, how did you listen to this album? And then two, afterwards, how would you recommend somebody else listen to this album?
That's
So
a good
like,
question.
yeah.
So when I listen to it, like the majority of the albums we do, especially albums that I'm not familiar with, I listen to in my car, because I enjoy this. Like I have a decent sound system in my car, and I feel like I can kind of hear and feel things there, versus if I listen to it, like I don't want to listen to an album on AirPods for the first time. Like I don't think it's enough for experiencing an album. So that's the first way that I did it. And to me, like, that works for this type of music, right? Any sort of like electronic based music, or any sort of hip hop production heavy type of music, I want to listen to in my car. That's how I listen to the majority of those albums. And so to me, like, if you're going to experience it for the first time, especially if you have a good sound system in your car, do it there. If you have a good sound system at home, let it rip. But like I don't like experiencing that stuff on headphones for the first time, just because I don't think it encapsulates what that album should be, you know. And for Christian, it was probably different. If he was listening to it when he was a kid, it was probably on a fucking CD with like who knows what kind of speakers, right? But now, like, and that's kind of what's cool about music like this, right? Like, people give artists and record labels shit for remastering shit, you know. Like Ready to Die has been remastered like 3 times, I swear to God. But it's like, it is nice to hear those things kind of cleaned up and touched up, and you can hear things now that you wouldn't have heard when you're listening to those types of albums in 1997 or 1994 or 5 when Ready to Die came out. So that was my experience, at least. What about you, Christian?
Yeah, I mean, just because it's been in my rotation for so long, I've listened to this album in probably every facet that you can imagine, but it's always a go-to for me in the gym. Because the majority of it is so high powered, and even for the ones that aren't, with minefields, it's just I'll usually go through the heavy hitters like in the gym, just because it's so high energy. And then as I'm kind of like getting into a more meditative, chilling, like getting the heart rate down, like going into the sauna or doing some light cardio after, then I'll go into those more tracks that are meditative. I personally think that if somebody's going to give this a run for their first time, fucking windows down, high energy, fucking turn that bitch all the way up, because it's what the majority of the album is.
Right.
So that's what I'd say.
Yeah, I think the thing that we all have in common and we agree on is that like this is a very movement based album. You know, like this is not you're not going to sit in your room in the dark and listen. You might. I mean, you might light a candle in the dark and listen to it, but like you can't be still. I think it's impossible.
Just
right?
picture like coming down from a trip, like staring at the ceiling in the dark with the Prodigy on in the background. Like, where the fuck am I, man?
Now that could be a Safdie Brothers movie, now, and we would watch it, right? Yeah. But like something that's funny too, I was kind of pulling up some of the members of the Prodigy, and they got Keith Flint, Leroy Thornhill, and this person who goes by the name of Sharky listed as their first credit, I should say, because some of them have vocals and keyboards, but their first credit is all dancer. So like I have not looked up any live Prodigy, and I can't fucking wait to look it up after the fact, because if their label is attributed as dancer, and the way you described it, Christian, it sounds like a freaking madhouse. So I can't wait to just
their fucking live videos are, I mean, fucking bonkers. It's like fucking Woodstock '99, the bad one, you know, where shit's chaotic and fucking getting crazy. So it's like
very nice.
Yeah.
Getting into rankings, the only ranking I could find, Pitchfuck gave it a 5.9. They did this review in 2018. It says, each Sunday, Pitchfork takes an in-depth look at a significant album from the past, and any record not in our archives is eligible. Today, we revisit the Prodigy's testosterone-fueled U.S. invasion with 1997's Fat of the Land. It's so Pitchfork. It's so Pitchfork to be like testosterone filled. Like, it's too toxic masculinity. These fucking guys, man. Unbelievable. Christian, what do you got for rating out of 10?
It's a 9.5 for me.
Holy.
If it didn't, it's got the nostalgia factor. It's just been such a big part of my like just music journey as a whole that it's there for me. If Fuel My Fire wasn't on there, you know, we might be having a different conversation, but yeah, thanks, Prodigy. Appreciate that. You didn't fuel my fire with that song.
You fucking poured a gallon of water on my fire. Anthony?
So I'm giving this one a 7. You know, it was kind of difficult for me because the replay factor for me isn't as great as it is for you, Christian, but I see the impact that it made culturally, and I can see hear the innovation, you know, just within the music itself. But I could do without the vocals on a lot, so that's what stops me from going any higher. But solid 7. I enjoyed it.
Nice.
So sorry, Christian. I give it a 6. And let me say, I wrote this review.
Baby. That's what we're here to do.
I wrote this review before I read any of the other reviews, which is weird now that I'm looking at it, but I basically said that I feel like the album could be 6 tracks instead of 10. Like it started to drag on and get repetitive to me towards the end.
Yeah.
But the thing that I wrote at the end was it all starts to blend together for me. It was cool for the time period, but has lost its impact as time has gone on, which is I genuinely, it's funny reading those reviews now because they kind of had the same opinion. But I guess to Anthony's credit, what I have to consider is kind of the music that it inspired and what it's meant for that type of music moving forward, which definitely like you can't ignore that. But I just feel like now we've had so much, like you said, Anthony, like music like Tipper and so much different like breakbeat, scratchy type, electronic, upbeat, DMBs type shit, since then that I feel like it's kind of lost its impact. But I mean, there's some fucking great tracks on here, and it's a cool concept. And going into it blind was really interesting because I was just taken for a fucking ride, right? Because I didn't know what the hell was going on. So, but yeah, that's the Prodigy fat of the land. You guys got any final thoughts before we move to rides or dies?
That's it. I think I'm good.
Yeah, like I said, I'm excited to just fucking see it now with my eyes, see some of the crazy shit that was going down.
You'll have to let me know, because it's one of those that was very much about like the culture of the show and the craziness of that. So I think you'll see a lot of similarities with stuff that we got to see.
Fuck yeah.
All right, Christian, intro us with your rides or dies.
So my rides or dies is a song called Hypermania by a band called Polaris. They're out of Australia. They're a metalcore band from Sydney. And look, man, I don't know what has been going on with me, but I've just been really getting into fucking some hardcore metal shit. And don't get me wrong, I'm really particular about it. And this song just fucking blasts. I think my buddy Gage showed it to me, and because he's a fucking like progressive, I don't even know what you want to call it, like math rock guitarist. So he has his own band and he loves stuff like this and sent it over. But it just is fucking all gas, no brakes. It starts off, it says, "I got a bone to pick with fate because fortune's failed me as of late and thrown me in too deep. I've lost the plot from losing so much sleep." And it just goes on. There's one line where he just screams it, and then it goes into a little bit more like lighter. It says, "So you'll miss me when I'm gone, just to keep me hanging on till the bitter end." And then it like pumps back up again in this cool little kind of break beat. "Here we go again. I've been up and down every day." And it just,
woo, yeah.
I fucking go run through a brick wall right now, boy. God damn. So,
Anthony, thoughts on that?
It.
All right, so here are my thoughts. When you say the lyrics like that, like how you just did, Christian, I'm on board.
Yeah.
I'm on board. Yeah. I can understand you. I vibe with it. You got rhythm in your voice. That sweet baritone coming through is just getting me
straight,
right. But the way that they delivered it, it's just too much, man. And I can handle. I mean, I had a friend send me a Bad Omens album this week, and I listened to it. I fucking really loved
Bad
it,
Omens too. Oof.
Dude. All right, well, we'll bring it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
That shit rips.
Megan, if you're listening, we're bringing you on one day. So, but the idea being like, I can get down with that music if it delivers something and resonates with me. And like I listen to this track, and I listened to it a couple times, and I'm like trying to figure out ways I can dive into it. And maybe I need to listen to this whole album, because the track that played right after had a very different vibe from the get-go. And I was like, all right, so if there is some, I don't want to say musicality because I'm not trying to sound like a music snob, but like if there is like emotion in it that I can get on board with, then you got me, right? But this track, it dies on me. That's the only way I can put it.
That's what I was hoping for. I was hoping I'd come back and just get a dies from somebody. You got
it.
Anthony's like, "Oh, don't worry, I got you fucking covered, brother. This song sucks."
Dies.
I have to say, not what Christian, you've taken me for a mental and emotional ride this week, man. Not what I expected from you. The Prodigy album is not what I expected. So I've kind of been all over the place, like trying to pivot at certain points. So it wasn't what I was expecting, but yeah, I mean, fucking rides for me. The thing is I like there's some I have a playlist called doesn't have a playlist, and it's just a hodgepodge of random shit that I feel like doesn't belong on a different playlist. And I got into some sad fucking emo vibes recently and some screaming shit. I think I already got a song in mind to bring for the next Rides or Dies, but yeah, man, I like shit like this sometimes, you know? I like to hear it. I like the screaming, the chaoticness of it. So yeah, it's a Rides for me, for sure.
Fuck yeah, let's go.
Anthony, what do you got?
All right, so my track, dude, this one's really interesting because there was a time, and I still get into this vibe pretty regularly, where if I'm doing something, I'll usually will play like an ambient album or something, but somebody turned me on to the lo-fi YouTube channels, dude. Right? So like, dude, you can get so fucking lost in there, but it's so hard to nail down a track, at least for me, because I'll just get captivated by the music, and then the next song will play, and I'll totally forget at what point in that 6-hour video the track was. So this one kept reoccurring, and I kept remembering it and being like, oh my God, this track is fucking, I love this track, right? So at one point I finally like nailed down what it was. So it's a track called Aurora by a producer called Brilliant and a couple other folks too. I don't know off the top of my head, but once I was able to kind of nail down this track and dig into that artist some more, I was like, man, he really hits a vibe and it resonates with me. So I was curious to see what you guys thought about it.
Yeah, so I gotta say, I don't know if you know this, lo-fi. So it started off as lo-fi hip hop beats to study / relax to. That was the name of it, and they have a Spotify playlist. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah. So they put all the songs on a Spotify playlist and they refresh it daily. But I like for years, I think I got turned on to it in 2020, but I put this on, I think this past year, it was my third most played genre was lo-fi music, because when I wake up in the morning, especially on my weekends, I make coffee, I put it on, I'll fucking jump on. What it started as was I was playing chess a shit ton, and I can't listen to real music when I play chess because I have to focus. Not real music, but I
can't have lyrics.
Yeah, I can't have like lyrics and shit. So I would put it on and play chess for hours, dude. And so now even still, I'll make coffee, I'll either play chess or League of Legends or World of Warcraft or whatever, and I just want music in the background that I'm not focused on, and so I put on lo-fi music. So huge rides for me. I'm glad that you listen to this type of music too, because like it's so, even when I'm around the house, man, like sun is shining, I'm downstairs like sweeping or whatever, I put on lo-fi music and just like, I think it's perfect for just kind of doing shit, you know, and having music on in the background. So
yeah, it's good to read too. You know, I always struggle finding music to play while I'm reading, because just same deal with you. Like I'll start to pay attention to the music more than the track or the activity or whatever I'm doing. But yeah, reading and lo-fi music goes hand in hand.
Yeah. Christian?
Yeah, I mean, similar to what y'all are saying, I like have time carved out throughout my mornings where I journal and meditate and like to just like spend time for myself or read or whatever. And I'm not sure if I would love this for that moment. I think I would love this for more like doing those things in the evening. It has a very lullaby styled kind of vibe, kind of feel to it. And it just, it really does feel like a lullaby. It almost like rocks you. Like the song itself, just like it's got that great vibe. The lo-fi-ness to it is awesome. So easy rides there. Easy rides.
Nice. I thought that Christian was going to retaliate, and like after we got done with our spiel, Christian just immediately was going to be like, dies. Hard dies.
I thought he was setting it up even more. Like I was about to put a check by Christian, and then I'm like, wait, I got to make sure he clarifies that the shit rides. So
you know what's funny is I don't know if
this is a world-class song. So world-class, I never want to hear it again.
I don't know if Trey still listens to the pod. He's not gonna like that I'm bringing this up. But the first time Trey quit the pod, I had made fun of him during Rides or Dies, and then when it got to my song, he said "Dies, no further comment," and then
immediate retaliation.
Yeah, just straight up fucking brought the axe down on me. Okay, so my song I picked. Listen, I've been listening to a shit ton of Billy Strings, aka Bobby Strangles, aka Billy Fly the Strings guy. as I like to call him. And I picked Cabin Song by Billy Strings, which is a song for the new Hunger Games movie, which I didn't watch, and I didn't know that.
It's great.
I've been listening to a shit ton of Billy Strings. I love him. His Theo Vaughn podcast was so enlightening. I don't know if you listen to it or not, Anthony. You would fucking love it. But he's just like, he seems like a great dude, and that dude can play the fuck out of a guitar, man. Like, that dude is a straight ripper. So, and I've just been really like listening to a ton of bluegrass music in general recently. So, yeah, what'd you guys think, Anthony?
All right, so here's my thing about bluegrass.
Here we go.
Respect the genre.
Strap in.
All right. Respect the genre big time. I respect Billy Strings big time, you know, and I'm going to bring it back to Trey. We're talking about Trey. Trey sent me a link to the Nugs, the other night while he was playing in Nashville. And I so regret not tuning in because I looked at the set list after, and homie played Nirvana, Something in the Way. Homie played Crown of Thorns by Mother Love Bone. Andy Wood from the Temple of the Dog podcast. He was just throwing. He played Elderly Woman Behind a Counter in a Small Town. I've got the name right, which is the Pearl Jam track. Played that in the same set. So I have so much respect for him, and I see artists like Tool bringing him on stage. So big fan of him as a person. Now, I've never seen him live.
That being said,
I've never seen him live. And this is my thing with bluegrass. I think it's meant to be experienced live with a shit ton of people moving around, you know? And like, that's something that when I'm in the moment, when I see a bluegrass show, you know, String Cheese or Sickard Hollow, or really the only few bluegrass events that I've been to or bands that I've seen, it's an amazing time. So I love it for that fact. I love it for being outside barefoot in the grass, you know, under the moon, dancing to bluegrass with a shitload of people. That makes sense to me. But this one is going to get a dies for me because I can't just like throw it on and by myself, you know, it just doesn't resonate with me that way. But with a group of people, shit, we'll start high stepping and swinging hands left and right all day.
All right. Whatever. I mean, you're wrong.
It's not
whatever.
fair. It's not fair.
I'm changing my opinion of Anthony's song. Christian, what'd you think?
Oh man, this is such a good song.
Hell
Take
yeah.
me back to the woods where she left me. Let me walk through the hills all alone. That motherfucker. It's just it has that and there are some bluegrass where I think to Anthony's point, yeah, like I think it's best experienced that way. But this song is not one of those songs. This song, I fucking sit in my car and Humpty Dumpty my ass all the way up to the mountains and blast that motherfucker with the fucking windows down.
Hell
with
yeah.
the pup in the back seat, baby.
Yeah.
Little Montucky cold snack.
Yeah, buddy.
Wheat straw.
Yeah, this song fucking rides. Shout out Billy Strings, ripping dick, sucking lips. I don't know what you want to call it, but that dude can play guitar.
Hell yeah. I actually thought about, and this is an idea I want to float to you guys. I told Christian I wanted to get a Billy Strings album on the pod, but I think what would be a better idea is to pick a live show that he did, because he has a number of them on YouTube. And the one that I saw was Bonnaroo 2022, and the set list for it is fucking nuts. So if you guys are open to it at some point, I'd like to maybe do a live show instead of an album. I don't know. It's just an idea to float around because I think it would be cool.
Yeah, I can consider it.
All right. So last topic of conversation, Anthony, you picked Team America, World Police for us to watch. So tell us why you picked this movie.
Okay. So this movie is something that I tried to push on probably to a lot of people. And I don't preface a lot about it, you know. I just say this movie is hilarious. You need to watch it. You need to watch it with an open mind too. And I really enjoy the responses that I get because then it gives me a chance to double down on why this movie is so epic. So I will save my opinions for as we get going because I'm sure we'll have some interesting points to throw back and forth. But I did want to say this first. Are either of you opposed to puppet movies? Because I have a list of some epic puppet movies that
yes,
you're opposed to it. Christian is opposed to it. All right.
Listen. It's one of those. So growing up, my grandmother had this all white room, and in white room, she had
weird vibes.
All these fucking ceramic dolls, like all these fucking scary ass dolls, and this just gives me that vibe. I made it through without a hitch. Like, we're fine. I got through it. I mean, I haven't gotten great sleep since, but
Wow.
because it brings me back to that room of white, like I'm in the goddamn poltergeist or something. But
Like an episode of True Detective when they solve the case, everything
They go
comes back
his
to the
trauma.
white room.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, don't be sending me puppet movies. I don't even want to see the little trailer poster of those things, because this was enough.
So
This
did you
was enough
find
for a
it? Did you
lifetime.
find it funny?
Yeah, I mean, it's very like,
It's South
it's
Park
the guys
humor.
from South Park.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very South Park. Like, it's that humor. So it has its place. I enjoyed it. I will give it that much.
That's fair.
But the puppets freak me out. Like, some of the terrorists, like, faces, man. I'll be
They are a
honest.
little
Like,
scary.
right?
The eyes,
fucking.
the eyes are too much for me. The eyes are too much
Yeah,
for me.
that's what it is. It's the eyes. They're almost, you realize it's a puppet, but they do a weird thing with this where it's like they try and make one thing realistic, and it's the eyes.
Yeah.
And you're like, damn, he's looking at me. But like, you're like, I know it's a puppet, but he's looking at me.
Yeah, like, if you were high, like at some point during the movie, you wouldn't find it funny anymore, and you'd be like,
No.
turn this off now.
No, Christian,
Yeah.
literally, would you have walked out of the theater of this movie not knowing anything? Were you out seeing it on a giant
If I was
screen?
by myself, maybe, because I'd have been a little scared, like sitting there in the dark. I remember watching it here on the couch. I was fucking looking behind myself a couple times.
Here's the
Right.
thing, like, in terms of puppet shit, like, Robot Chicken will forever hold a special place in my heart, because that, like, started my Robot Chicken is when Adult Swim went from American Dad and Family Guy to Robot Chicken was the, hey, heads up, in 30 minutes, shit's going to get real weird. And we're going to start going
Right.
into some Adult Swim shit that you're not used to. But Robot Chicken was kind of the blend between those. And I find Robot Chicken fucking hilarious. And that type of comedy is not everyone's thing. So it, like, this movie was funny in certain aspects. It's very South Park humor. Like, my favorite part of the movie is when they're trying to recruit him to, like, be part of the agency, and they go on this long spiel, and he's like, but if you don't like it, there's the door. And he goes, okay, thanks, and just turns around and walks out the door. I fucking love that part so much. And, like, the absurdity of it is very similar to Robot Chicken, the exploding bodies and, like, all that shit. And of course, like,
Yeah.
Trey Parker or Matt Stone's, like, Asian accent they do for
Oh,
Kim
man.
Jong-il is like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
I have a
God.
plan. Like, it's just so fucking, like, ridiculous that there are parts of it that I found funny. But I will say, Anthony, I'm sorry, you're gonna hate this,
Oh,
but I
wow.
found myself getting on my phone a lot during the movie. Like, I was like, all right, I gotta see what's going on Twitter or something. Like,
No, so
So-
there's two things wrong with what you just said, right? One, phone during a movie. That's
I knew
one.
you
Yeah.
weren't gonna like that.
The second
Mhm.
thing is Twitter. I can't believe you still are floating around that verse.
Yeah.
Because it's such a waste of time.
It's got its claws
Go back
deep
to
in me,
Geo
bro.
Wars. Go back to Geo Wars.
True.
All right, so
True.
here's gonna I'll give you my spiel on this movie, right? So one, it's very necessary because of the social commentary. That's what South Park is. South Park is
True.
super necessary because people are exactly like the characters that you're seeing, and they don't know it. So, like,
Yeah.
to basically shine a mirror or to put a mirror right in front of their face and say, all right, look how ridiculous you fucking seem. That's
Yeah.
this, right? So, like, the point of this movie, they wanted to make a movie without actors. So they used puppets, and to do a movie on this scale with puppets is super impressive. That's the respect that it deserves from it being a puppet movie in itself. Like, you look at movies like The Dark Crystal and The Labyrinth and even Gremlins, you know, I mean, like, these are actual puppets that have to be made for the movie. And
I
then
get what you're saying so much. I promise you I do. Like, I'm not taking away from that.
yeah, right.
But there's just something funny about saying, that's all right. I'm fucking crying up here. To be like, what they just here. These
Dude.
puppets was revolution. I'm not saying
gotta
you're
get
wrong.
it.
I'm saying it just sounds funny to say.
Hey, well,
That's
even it gets better because when you can have puppets vomiting a pool of vomit 3 times the size of your body is fucking hilarious, you know? When you can straight up shoot a machine gun through a puppet, it's hilarious, you know? The scene where the bodies are the Panama Canal floods and the bodies are just floating is fucking hilarious, you know? So like it creates a whole new medium that you can't do with people. Plus Trey Parker and Matt Stone hate actors, and they've done films. Have y'all seen any of their other movies like Basketball or Gazmo?
No.
I don't think so.
Oh my god, dude. All right, well then go watch those. Basketball is better than Orgasmo, but they're both, it's their lane of comedy, which is so them. And doing it with actors is funny, but the puppets, dude,
no, it's way funnier like this.
It's way funnier, you know. And to have
and they are like, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say they're not hiding anything. Like there's moments where the puppets are acting like real humans would act, and then there's a moment like a fight scene where the puppets are literally just like, you know, just crazy nonsense. You know?
So like, there's no choreographed like anything.
No, and that's the humor in it. You know, it's like we're gonna be silly, we're gonna be serious. I mean, there's my favorite, honestly, one of my favorite speeches in all of cinema is the dicks, pussies, and assholes speech, right? Where there's 3 types of people. And that is genius writing. And to have it come from a puppet is just, it just adds so much more to it. And I think there's such a special quality of it that like, people are going to look at it and say, oh, it's just a fucking puppet movie. But they don't get it, you know? And if we can say, Christian, you get a pass because you've had some trauma, and I respect that, and I don't want to shit on your trauma, your experience, but this movie it's special, and it deserves its light, and so that's why we're shining a light on it.
I will say, I mean, Trey Parker, Matt Stone, like South Park, forever one of the greatest sitcoms of all time. Like it's hilarious. It continues to be hilarious, and they're so like. And the same thing with this movie, they're so over the top social commentary to the point where like the fact that the black character's name is Token in South Park, like it's so over the top. And like when they, you know, make whole episodes about shit that people who, I think with South Park, people that find it offensive are missing the joke that they are trying to make. Like they're very clearly like, it's funny that social like opinion of it has shifted, whereas like in the early 2000s it was very Republicans hated it and liberals thought it was funny, and that's shifted now to the point where like people who are like liberals or like Twitter libs or whatever find it really offensive because they're missing the fucking point. Like they're missing the joke that they're trying to tell. They're shitting on the same people that these Twitter libs want to shit on. They're just doing it in a way funnier, more over the top way. And they're fucking missing the forest through the trees, which I think will always like, there's nothing better to me than someone making fun of Republicans and it's somehow pissing off Democrats. That's like the funniest shit in the world to me. Cause I'm like, you're so stupid. You don't even realize they're on your fucking side, you idiot. Like that's what I love about it. So yeah, you're right. It deserves its credit. So fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough.
There's like some line, I don't remember like many of them. I mean, there's just so much in this fucking movie, but there's the one about like, I don't know if he said something about like betraying us and I'll rip your balls off and shove them up your ass.
Yes, so, no, and then he says later,
your balls.
Yeah. And he says later, the best part is the next insult he uses is, if you double cross us, I will shove a nail through your dick so there's 3 holes in it and you pee 3 ways. Like, why? What the fuck?
There's just so much of that just sent me.
There's one, and it's a very romantic moment where the actor and one of the female Team America woman, she's like, if you promise me you will never die, I will make love to you right now. And there's a pause, a very, very comedic pause. And he says, I will never die. And then the sex scene happens, you know, and the sex scene is fucking hilarious, but it's also it's been edited. So there's parts of the sex scene. I'll say what's going to happen, but I encourage everyone, go look up Team America Uncut sex scene, and you will see there's a moment where he pisses on her and she shits on his face, and it's fucking hilarious.
I
And
will never die is what kills me.
right. And again, it's like they're doing things that, like, yeah, you just can't get humans to do some of this shit. But like, again, to take it in your own hands and do it, it's I think, yeah, it deserves some special credentials. One other line I want to say is there's a moment where the actor is acting, and the guy's like, "You have balls. I like balls." It's just that's it. So there's plenty of moments like that. They just get you.
Anthony, what do you got for an album next week? I got the movie.
Okay, so album, it's based on a movie that just came out. It is gonna be, let's see, Bob. Oh, it does come off backwards. I was wondering about that.
No,
we're gonna do Bob Marley's. Does it look straight to you?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah,
it looks backwards to me. Why don't you tell the folks at home what our album's gonna be?
Bob Marley and the Wailers, Exodus.
Fuck
yeah.
So the Bob Marley film came out. I really loved it. Fuck what the critics say. It's a great movie, a great message. But yeah, I'm excited to do Exodus. So we'll do that next week. And what we got for a movie? Christian, you going to be with us next week?
Yes, sir.
Beautiful.
So
beautiful.
You guys should already know what's coming. Dune 2, baby. Dune 2.
Okay.
Go see Dune 2 in IMAX, and we will fucking chop it up.
Already checked. Already done.
Yeah. We will suck Denis Villeneuve off a little bit like we have done in the past, and it'll be great. So Exodus and Dune 2 next week.
Let's go.
Christian, great to have you back as always, man. Feels like the gang is back together again, and it's nice to have you here. So hopefully next week your camera works, because it's a little awkward staring at a gray screen, but we'll figure it out. Until then, guys, hope you enjoyed, and we will see you next week.
Beautiful.
Peace.
See ya.
Bye.